Good. Oh, that's right. You have the power too. Well, thank you everybody for joining us here tonight. We are going to learn how to make our kitchens more responsible in all kinds of ways, mostly ecologically, ethically responsible kitchens. And I know there's always something more to learn about this. I'm so thrilled that Stacey is here with us tonight. And if I really, to give her background in her experience and her stature just enough time, I would need the entire hour. So we're really lucky to have her, and Ridgewood is so lucky to have her too, as the founder and chairman or president of HealthBarn, the foundation, and also the organization in Ridgewood that has provided so much great education to kids and healthy meals for people, a healing meals program. And like I said, I can't even get through all of the wonderful things that Stacey does. Thrilled to have her tonight.
Thanks, Larissa. So this is exciting. When I saw, I mean, this is one of my favorite topics. And when I heard that, well, Larissa told me there were 15 and I think it's now like 21 people. So I feel like this was so exciting because sometimes these topics aren't the most interesting for people. So the fact that you want to participate and learn about this, which I'm sure you're already doing, many of you are probably already doing it. So if you've already established a sustainable kitchen or you're composting, let's start with, are you composting? If you are, can you give me a thumbs up, like reaction, thumbs? Some people, I can't see them. Okay, right. So if you don't have your video on, can you just do a thumbs? Okay, this is good. Well, so basically I'm a nutritionist and I'm an MSRD. I know some of you. And so I'm the founder of HealthBarn, and the whole idea was to create like a healthy lifestyle education. And I have to tell you, honestly, when I started it in 2005, I never composted, I never grew food. And what really made a difference, because all my training was in the hospital and basically around more sick situations. Like if you were in the hospital, you had heart disease or diabetes, that's when you see typically a dietitian. And so venturing into more of a preventative approach, like children and education, brought a whole new experience for me. And thank God I have an open mind and, a green thumb. But you don't even need a green thumb, really. But I think what was so important is that sometimes we live in very different silos. So the nutrition world lives over here, the environmental people live over here, the medical people live over here, the conservation people and the gardeners are over here. Everybody has their own little turfdom. And then what happens is nobody's communicating and recognizing that we all are basically saying the same thing. And when we want the best for the planet, we also want the best for ourselves. We're interconnected. You can't possibly talk about nutrition and wellness without talking about human beings, species, bees, honey, composting, soil, soil management, and nature. I mean, it's all related. So when you start, so basically wherever you are on the spectrum, wherever you are, like whether you love to hike, whether you're into growing your own food, whether you think composting is cool, or whether you're juicing, I mean, you are in the process of having a sustainable kitchen. And I think that's where it gets overwhelming, like these words like sustainable. I mean, I just figured out like, okay, well, if you're cooking with all these vegetables and you have all these, hey, Polly. Hi, Anson. How are you? I didn't know you guys were on tonight. That's so cool. So anyway, so basically, if you're doing these, if you're just eating vegetables, which I know is a big step for a lot of people, then whatever scraps you have, you can't possibly throw that eventually. You have to think like, should I be throwing this in my garbage or should I be composting? And once you make the move with composting, then, and you're eating all this good food, it sort of opens up this world of opportunity. It's like, wow, how was I living before? Like I was living, with my blinders on. I didn't really understand what was going on. And that's what's so amazing. And then what you learn is that you're not the only one. There's like thousands, millions of people that want to do this. And so that's why it's so exciting that, you know, there's HealthBarn, because it's the values, similar values, people with similar values come, then children get excited about it because they're growing vegetables and eating and cooking and all the garden to table. And Joe's on this Zoom, and she just launched Sustainable Ridgewood, which is an amazing resource. And I'll put the article, the How to Achieve the Sustainable Kitchen, is actually on there. And I can actually quickly, I'm not going to do it now, but I can bring it up so you guys can take notes, or you can, you know, you can bring it up and I'll show it at the end, but you could just go straight to the website if you don't want to take notes. I know it's a Wednesday night, you know, so you just want to enjoy the show kind of thing. But so I think that's a really important introduction, that what is so exciting about this is that you are not alone. And there's so many resources, and there's so many people that are just really fun to be around, you know? So, I mean, it's really kind of like moving in a more natural, holistic environment, as opposed to being material, like super material. Because the more materialistic you are, is the more wasteful you become. And you're not really conscious of what you're doing in terms of waste. And then as you become more simple and you start to simplify your life, I mean, that opens up an entire world that maybe you weren't aware of. And I mean, I didn't grow up like this. You know, I grew up in New Jersey with parents that were working all the time. My grandparents gardened, and I spent some time with them. But it wasn't really until I went to school and I saw what was happening with people's health that moved me to say, wow, this is crazy. I mean, we need to do something important, you know, especially for children. The stats were that this was the first generation that wasn't going to outlive their parents based on lifestyle. And so that's what the lifestyle is. And the lifestyle isn't just about fruits and vegetables. It's about nature. It's about getting kids and people, you know, go on nature hikes, play with tadpoles, be with frogs. And, you know, that eliminates video games and using your cell phones all the time. And then, oh my gosh, maybe I'll get on a bike and ride with my family. And that eliminates the car for a little bit. And, oh, by the way, I'm going to bring my bags to the grocery store. And then I don't consume all this plastic, and I don't have to keep buying 5 cents for my bags. Although I'm sure you guys can handle it. So it's like one thing after another. It's really fascinating. And you don't want to be on a soapbox. I can tell you that. You just want to basically meet people where they are and encourage them and just really have fun with it. You know, it's not like you have to lecture people on, you know, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Nobody wants to hear anybody lecture about how to do things better. So, so basically, I really think the kitchen is the heart of wellness. You know, the kitchen is the heart of the home, basically. I mean, it's the way you nurture yourself. It's the way you nurture the people you love. And it's the gathering place, right? That is the place. It's like the center of the universe. This is the place where you talk about the great day you had or not so great, and the challenges. And I mean, this is the family meal. So this is why it's such an important place to start, is the kitchen, because that is where the heart of your home is. And all good things come in the kitchen, and all good things can be participated by everybody in the family. It's not just like you as the head of the kitchen. You can share your responsibilities. So, you know, I think the connection with nature transforms an ordinary kitchen into extraordinary. And I mean, this doesn't have to be that complicated. So I think if everybody is ready for the ride, we're going to get into some steps. And what I want to do is go over the steps. And I can tell you this because these are the steps that we took at HealthBarn. And I will say, me in particular, I know Anson's on this, he's on one of the tiles, and I'm sure he'll give a little commentary whether this is true or not, because he probably knows better than I do. But there are steps that we took in order to get there. And I have to tell you, I've been doing HealthBarn for 15 years. This did not happen. Like, I did not start HealthBarn and like flip the switch and we have a sustainable kitchen. This was a process. And, you know, I always say that this is a process. This is a marathon, not a sprint. You're never, you know, and the other thing is you don't get like gold stars at the end. You get a lot of worms and you get a lot of, you know, gold, you know, black gold, but you're not going to get a big gold star and someone's going to be out there cheering like, hey, you know what? You win the award for biggest composter. You know, it's not going to happen. But the truth is you're doing something good for yourself. You feel good about it. And you're doing something good for the planet. Because if everybody just said, you know what, I don't really matter, then we're going to really be in a bad place. So it's really a bigger effort than we really imagine. It's not just about our home. It's about all the homes. It's the collective homes because we share a consciousness. And that's so important. So, what I've outlined in my, in the 9 steps, there are 9 steps here. And I want to get through the 9 steps. And if you guys have any questions, you know, I really love that. I want this to be interactive. I don't want it to be just me being a talking head. So I'm just going to go through the 9 steps and then we can open it up for discussion. Okay, so the first step, and this is like the garden to table experience. So you can be as crazy and wild as you want to be with the garden to table, right? You want to transform the front of your property and make it a garden. Maybe your neighbors won't like it, I don't know. But you know, you might make the cover of the record because it's so different and unique. But it's really not. If you go to other states, other cities, people are doing this. People are growing things on their roof. It's like so crazy what's happening. And once you start growing, you can't stop. It's kind of how that goes. So the first step is take an inventory of your current kitchen, okay? And what that means is determine what percentage of your food is fresh or processed. That is like the first major step. So if you think about it, go through your cupboards, go through your refrigerator, go through your freezer. How much of your food is, what percent are you using fresh ingredients versus processed? And what you want to do is, you know, how do we determine processed foods? We play this game called Supermarket Spy Kids. It's basically if it has more than 5 ingredients and you can't pronounce it. And it's got like weird foods or dyes or things like that. So canned foods, it could be just packaged foods, crackers, right? You know, just like, are your grains processed or are they whole? You know, start looking at your food and seeing what your source of ingredients are right now. Just take a snapshot, you know, and only you know this. And really what you want to do is, if within your inventory, if you've got 60% of your 60% of them are fresh foods versus processed foods, then you're doing well. But you could use some improvement. Ideally, a sustainable kitchen, you want it to be 90 to 95% fresh. Now that might seem overwhelming. You're like, wow, okay, but that is the goal. And you can sort it out in different ways, but there's, that is the goal. And honestly, if you move, and I could tell you this as a nutritionist, I have my nutrition hat on. If you get to that 90 to 95%, not, you know, fresh food, you will see a dramatic difference in your health, dramatic, without doing anything, without being on a diet, without being, you know, running like a maniac and trying to exercise. You will see a dramatic increase, possibly in your hypertension, if you have blood pressure, if you have any cholesterol issues, you will see a dramatic difference. So then the question is, so then we take this inventory, and then step 2 is go fresh, right? So that's the big message here. And in order to go fresh, you want to eat a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, which should be the center of your plate. And I'm not even advocating here, you know, vegan or pescatarian or, you know, anything. I'm just saying make vegetables and fruits the center of your plate. And then you can put your proteins and your grains. But the more you have these fruits and vegetables in the center, not the protein in the center, the healthier you're going to be, and the more sustainable your kitchen will be. So, and you can do basically, you know, produce that's loaded in good nutrition. And plus, like, now here's our, you know, same thing. It's like, if you're eating this many vegetables and fruits, you have to be composting. It's like, it's almost criminal not to be. And I'll go into that too, but you just think, wow. And then once you do it, even if you do it as an experiment for a week, and you just think to yourself, oh my gosh, did I collect that much compost? And think about how much you took out of the regular trash, right? So I know Joe has talked about creating like compost buddies in Ridgewood. Like, there are people that are doing it really well and love to share their knowledge. So if you're really into composting at the end of this and you want to say, well, how do I get started? I'm sure Joe can hook you up with a buddy. So anyway, so, and on this, and I did share a chart, because then you want to eat seasonally. So you want to know, like, well, when is the seasonal food available? That's a huge piece of it. And then you want to shop local, because if you're eating seasonal food and you're eating it fresh, and you want to reduce the cost of your grocery, because a lot of people will say to me, well, you know, fresh produce is really expensive. And honestly, if you just shop, if you're eating seasonally, and you can do, you know, there's ways to cut out things, but if you're doing that and you're buying from local farmers, typically that's a way to reduce your bill, your grocery bill. And I mean, of course, the best thing is to grow your own food, but you know, that's an ambitious adventure, and that needs some real thought to think about. You can't just, you don't just do that. So, so then I get into growing your own food, and I mean, you can literally transform, I mean, you know, and I am going to offer gardening classes in the spring when you know, when things loosen up. So, I mean, I'll definitely share that with Larissa and Joe, but I want to help people start a garden. And at Habernickel, you know, we took up 50 by 100 space, 50 by 100 yards. And it wasn't easy. I mean, it was completely, I thought, well, it's horses, it's going to be good soil. It ended up where we actually put the garden, which was right next to the barn. It was like drilling into concrete, because it was, I think, a lot of the fill of whatever houses they took down, they put there, but then it was so compacted from foot traffic that we had to get a excavator in there. It took 2 days. I mean, it was like drilling into cement, and that's what dirt can become. But the magic of it, which was like pretty amazing, was I sent the soil sample to Rutgers Cooperative, because I wanted to make sure there was nothing, you know, no lead or anything bizarre in there, because we're going to eat food. So like, if you planted trees, it's not a big deal, but like, if you're eating food, then we want to start organically, continue organically, and want to make sure it's safe. So once we got the thumbs up that it was safe, and they said, well, it's going to take you about 3 years to make this happen, to get food, like real food, but you can do it, because it takes that long to actually rehab the soil. So what we were doing is we brought in, we shipped in by truck, huge yards, like 15 to 20 yards of black dirt from Warwick, which is like the primo organic black dirt. And we just kept amending and amending and amending. And that soil, even within the first year, we did get food. Year 2, we got more of a yield than I ever thought. And by year 3, we were in full production. It was unbelievable. So it is possible, even if you think, you know, and depending, like, you could start with a pot of herbs, or you could start with a pot of tomato plants, 1 tomato plant and basil, or herbs, whatever you like to eat. Just start with something. And I know there's a lot of animal damage in Ridgewood. You know, you guys have a lot of deer and other creatures. Squirrels were really a nightmare this year. Squirrels were so aggressive. I can't even believe it. The groundhog was not my problem this year. It was rabbits and squirrels. And squirrels are nasty little beings, because they just take a bite out of everything and then wreck it for everybody else. So we were like cutting around the tomato. This beautiful heirloom gets a big chunk bite from a squirrel. You want to just like break your heart, but we just managed to like slice around it, and it was really fun. So anyway, so this is something really important. And also we, you know, Ridgewood Parks and Recreation has CSAs. And so they have a community supported agriculture. So if you can't do it at your house, you can actually rent a plot for like $50 and you can grow your own food in a community. And that's really cool too, because everybody, you know, you want to do it with a group. Like we have 3 plots at HealthBarn. We have, oh my gosh, now I'm blanking. We have Walter and, oh gosh, I'll come back to it. But we have 3 plots. Walter loves coming to the plot. I'm sure Anson remembers Walter. He shows up in the morning and he just loves seeing the kids. He hangs out doing his vegetables. And Joyce has these amazing bird feeders that she's really into her garden, and all the HealthBarn kids know they can't touch that stuff, but they love seeing the kids, and it's kind of fun. Like, so they'll talk about their produce and they'll give us, sometimes if they have an overflow of zucchini, they give it to us to make for our recipes. So everyone's sharing. It's really a wonderful experience. So if you haven't tried that and you think, well, this is way too much, I can't do it at my house, this is definitely an option. And I know that they're open plots for next spring. So just, you know, and you can actually even sign up for that now. A CSA means a community supported agriculture. So you can get your own plot, and then you can also join. What I meant for community supported agriculture as well is that you can, so some of the farms, I know Atmos Farms, and I mean, there's all like CSAs where you could join and get like, every week you get food, but some people complain that they get the same food. They get a lot of lettuce, they get a lot of kohlrabi, and they don't know what to do with it. But it's a way to support farmers locally. And then you get the bag of food, and you pay for that up front, so that they basically cover their costs early, as opposed to having to recoup it through the season. So, so anyway, and then step 5 is compost your own scraps and more. Right? So compost is referred to by Black Gold, and it keeps the ecosystem healthy and active, loaded with good nutrition and vibrant with fruits and vegetables. And so there's a variety of methods of doing this. So at HealthBarn, we just dug a hole, we put our scraps in there, we added soil, eggshells, coffee grinds, tea bags, leaves, grass clippings. Well, actually, I wouldn't say grass clippings because we didn't take the grass clippings. We used leaves, but you could do grass clippings only if you don't treat your grass. If you treat your grass, do not put any matter in your compost that is treated. Okay, because you're eating food. It's fine for flower beds, but it's not okay for food. I wouldn't want to do that. Even if you go and get soil from like the town. And they have compost. Again, if they're collecting with yard waste and things like that, I wouldn't use it for vegetables. I would not use it for food. So, so anyway, so then there's also bins you can get. Like there's the rotating bins. There's the bins that are actually stationary, and you need a big pitchfork, and you got to turn that all the time. I like an open area because the kids and even myself can go out there, dump it, and actually keep it going. It's much easier to actually access. And then there's even worm bins, which is like pretty amazing. So like, I know so many people in New York who like have worm bins. I know you guys are thinking yuck, but it's like they have worm bins underneath their sinks. So it's like a bin with holes in it, and you have soil, and you keep moving the soil with the scraps. I mean, some people are so into this. It is so cool. But and there's also Jim's Worm Farm. You get these amazing worms. I did it one year. I did a bin, and it was so exciting. So I think that, so, you know, it's kind of like you can, and the other thing is that if you think about one of the things that I do, I challenge at HealthBarn, we compost right there with the kids. And then we transport it to a big bucket. And then that bucket, there's a composter at the HealthBarn, and that bucket goes out to the garden every day. And we're even composting now, just like, you know, but where I live in Manhattan. And so what I do is that I don't want it to smell, obviously, and I'm not moving it as quickly. So what I do is I have a bin, and it's a large bin, and I put it in my freezer, and I add the compost scraps. I add the fruits and vegetables and all my stuff into these bins, into the bin in my freezer. Then when it's frozen, I take the plastic container to the farmer's market at Union Square, and I dump it there. And then I just clean my bin and then back into the freezer. And I usually make once a week a stop like that. And it's pretty amazing because it never stops, it never breaks down, it never smells. So you can even do this, you know, I don't know where you can do compost drops. And I know, Joe, maybe you can put that on your website. Can you mention that in Ridgewood?
Yeah, there's neighborhood composting, and that's a new business. It's a local farm, and they'll come to Ridgewood, and they'll pick up your compost. They'll take it away to their farm, and then in exchange, they can bring you vegetables from their farm.
Oh, what's the name of the farm?
It's called Neighborhood Composting.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, and their details are on the website.
Okay.
So so it might be interesting for the schools, but they will come to individual houses and they will take the composting.
Great, excellent. So so basically, there's all kinds of ways to do it, but if you're really fussy about smelling things, like things are smelly and they're messy, and because the compost, the vegetable scraps do break down pretty quickly. I like highly recommend freezing, highly. And it's just so useful to do it in a plastic bin. So you're not using like a container, as opposed to using plastic, because then you're just throwing out plastic. It's like, you know, that's creating another problem. So, so anyway, so then the next step is to systematize weekly meal planning. Okay. So this is, you're probably thinking, oh no, like, I mean, it's so funny. This is like a nutrition nightmare. Like people, you say, okay, you got a meal plan. They're like, I thought that's why I hired you. I always get that as a nutritionist, like, oh, but isn't that why I'm taking this class? Because you're going to do that work. And I said, but I don't live in your house. I can't possibly do that. So anyway, it's just so funny to me. But this is so important, because what you want to do is you want to designate a day of the week that you can just chill out. You need an hour at least. I think an hour is like, and I do it for, 500 kids a week. So, I mean, if I can do it, you guys can do it. So what you do is you just figure out, you have your file of recipes or your go-to things, and you basically try to figure out how to kind of stretch meals. If you do, chili right now, turkey chili is really popular, or veggie chili, and just add some turkey. If somebody in your house wants turkey, ground turkey, or beef or whatever, chicken. And basically you want to go over things with, and I put in Joe's on Sustainable Ridgewood, I put a seasonal chart there so you can see what's in season. So right now it's a lot of root vegetables, even some squashes that have held over, because those hold over, like butternut squash. I mean, even if you harvest the potatoes, sweet potatoes, turnips, all these things you can still use, and they're really hearty. And actually, from a farmer's standpoint in nutrition, if you eat according to the seasons, your body is essentially getting what it needs during that season in your locality. So you're actually nurturing your body with what your body needs from the region, and it boosts your immune system naturally. So it's like, the problem becomes is when we start eating like foods from Florida and like citrus stuff right now. I mean, vitamin C, okay, I get it, but it's better to use the root vegetables, because it actually grounds you in the winter. That's what I mean, I don't even have to get into it. It's just like, if you follow the seasonal chart, you actually nurture yourself naturally, because nature wants to give you the nutrition that you need, and it needs to sustain itself. I mean, you don't have to, it's not a math equation. You guys just have to follow the seasons. So, so that's really important, and make sure that you make double batches, right? So Nobody wants to make an effort. You don't want to be in the kitchen slaving away all the time. Definitely enlist your children. But like I said, like make a pot of chili. I'm just giving you an example. I don't know why I'm talking about chili. We're making this for healing meals. I'm all about chili now because we have so much turkey. So if you make chili, make a double batch, and you guys, and then so the first night you serve it, and the next night you can serve it or like 2 days later, do a chili bar, right? So you have chopped up, you have cheese, and then you have scallions, and you can add some other things. And all of a sudden that transforms this bowl of chili to an exciting like taco bar. And, you just have to repurpose what you're doing. So you're not constantly cooking the same things, but your chili has fresh tomatoes, and it has things that you can compost with. So, that's how you do it. It's like, that's how you get to this fresh equation of the 90% fresh. And then what you do is you organize your pantry. That's step 7. An important component of this is reducing food waste. We haven't even gotten into that. I mean, there is so much food waste in this country. And then what's so crazy with COVID is that we have now discovered we have a huge food insecurity problem. So how are we wasting all this food? Like even for ourselves, it's staggering what we're doing. So the first thing what you could do is you want to open, and this happens, like, believe me, and with HealthBarn, I have a team where I call, they're not my kids, but like their team. So like how many times I'll get an applesauce open and then somebody won't go to the refrigerator to check it, and they'll open another applesauce. And so now I have 2 applesauces, and, and I don't have an applesauce recipe for 2 weeks so that my applesauce will get the mold. So that's food waste. So the first thing I do is I always go to the refrigerator and we label everything. So you could start labeling stuff in your refrigerator, or even in your on your racks or in your pantries, and say opened and the date. And so that it's very visible for other people in your house. Like otherwise you have to control everything that goes on in your kitchen. But if you have a big label that says use, opened this date, use first. And you could even, like, if you have it in the rack, like pasta or whatever, you just put it ahead of, you line everything up. So you have the first item open, and then right behind it is the next item, if you're efficient and you have like backup. Because I'm sure for certain staples you have backup. But there's nothing worse than having multiple packages opened. And then what happens is you sit down and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to buy these things, but you didn't check the refrigerator. Because if you check the refrigerator, you're like, well, I still have some bell peppers I didn't cook. So maybe I should make fajitas. I need to make fajitas right away. So you have to check your items in the refrigerator first, because remember, we're eating fresh. And then you go to make your food list. But you always check your refrigerator first to make sure, or like it's Friday, could I make a garden to table, can I make a pizza, garden to table pizza? Or, hey, let me do a chop. Oh my gosh, my messages are going crazy. I'm gonna shut my phone. Or you could do a chop fried rice, which would be like super delish. And whatever veggies you have, you just throw in your chop rice. You make a fried rice. Who cares what it is? You just chop it finely. As long as it doesn't have mold on it, you can eat it. So, I'm just saying there's ways to do it. It's like, well, you know what? Let's make this special fried rice and get rid of everything in that refrigerator that's just about to go bad. So anyway, so that's kind of a big thing. And then we want to, that's really, really important. Organization of your kitchen is super important to reduce food waste. It is one of the single most important things. And if you're talking about a sustainable kitchen, you have to have a dialogue about food waste. You can't possibly talk about a sustainable kitchen without that, and this is like a big problem. So, and the other thing you could do is make muffins. So like, let's say you have extra pumpkin or something, do pumpkin muffins. You can hide anything in like cake or muffins. All right. Like banana bread. Like what? I mean, this is the concept of banana bread. You take your aging bananas that are super sweet and delicious, and instead of tossing them, you basically make banana bread. It's the same concept. You could use it for any fruit or vegetable. and you'll be doing something really good for yourself and the environment. And then number 8 is invest in dinnerware, flatware, and reusable water bottles. I know your children probably leave a wake of water bottles wherever they go. There is nothing more annoying than having like buying a really great water bottle and leaving it somewhere. I mean, because it, you know, the playground. I have like an unbelievable collection of very expensive water bottles. So I just run them through the dishwasher. At some point, I'm just gonna like make them available to everybody who wants them. But so we have to teach responsibility, right? That's the water bottle is really important. Not a reusable plastic like Poland Springs, but a water bottle, right? And dinnerware and flatware. So many times, you know, even now it breaks my heart. Like with COVID, it's like the restaurants are giving out all this stuff. It's like, you know, ketchup is in a container, mustard's in a container, everything's in containers, everything is, so then I'm like, oh, I'll just eat at the restaurant because I don't want all these things. Like, I don't want the silver, I don't want the plastic and all that. So, you know, you have to make decisions, but for yourself, like just get your dinnerware, make sure it's reusable, you know, and start, you know, make sure that's a big thing. Like, you can't believe how much waste goes in with disposable stuff. And we really try to reduce that. I mean, we run with HealthBarn, we have, you know, we run the camps and we have to, so we have 3 sets of everything. So we have a set for breakfast, we have a set for lunch, and we have a set for dinner, so that we're not using disposable as much as we can. Of course, the other thing is napkins. That's a whole nother issue. We don't have straws, but that is something. You can have multiple sets of something if you need it. I don't know, you know, how active your kitchen is or how many are in your kitchen. And then number 9 is you have to monitor, because guess what? You may set this up for so much success. You have like, you've got like, you're like, this is going to be great. I have this whole system. And then like you check the garbage and there's food scraps in there, or there's like, you know, a bowl or there's like, you know, I mean, or, you know, then you go into your pantry and you say, or you go into the refrigerator and you see, you have your nice labeled, and next to it is that opened item again. And, you know, without flipping, you have to take a deep breath and you realize that monitoring is key. Anson knows this. If you find me at any time at the HealthBarn, you will see me in garbage pails. This is like, I will literally go into the garbage, pull things out, leave it on the counter. And then my team is like, she's in the garbage. You know, it's like so funny because you can't possibly think that you set this up and it doesn't happen. And the other thing is that it's a process. Like, not everybody thinks the way I do. And this is part of the training. Like, you train a dog, you have to do it so many times, like that they go outside to go to the bathroom, right? So you have to keep reinforcing, retraining, reinforcing. I mean, for kids, it's so easy. They're like, where's the compost bucket? And here they go darting off. It's actually my team that's more of a problem. The kids are like totally ready and ready to do it. It's as they get older and they show up with their, like, you know, Dunkin' Donut mugs and everything else they got going. That's when their brain shut off. And you just think to yourself, oh, guys, come on, you could do better than that. And then, you know, and then rather than lecturing, I just go through the garbage. Or I'll just monitor. I'll show up on the patio and I see that they have disposable spoons. And I'm like, you know, I just take it, put the other ones. And I mean, I'm the first one to load the dishwasher. So there's no way that you can set this up for perfection and not monitor it. It's just not possible. It really is. And it's just, you're just going to be super disappointed and feel like, you know, you didn't really accomplish anything, and you don't want to do that. So, so those are my 9 steps that I hope didn't overwhelm you. I just want to share the screen right now. Let me just do this quickly. And I want to show this is the website. And so you could see sustainableridgewood.org, and it's in the, it's the how-to. She's got a resource on there, how-to. So you could see here, look at that beautiful picture, that compost bucket. I love it. And look at all those veggies. And look at, can you see the lettuce in the pot? I just love that. So it just gives you lots of great ideas. And then you can see here's all the steps. So if you didn't want to take notes, you didn't have to. The seasonal chart is here. There's an Explore article that we were published in Explore Journal about nature and nutrition. We published that in September and October with Rutgers. And so this will help you at least get started for some inspiration. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the share, but I wanted to give Jo a plug. She's worked so hard on this. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joanne. I just want to jump in and thank Joanne for making getting us started on this whole sustainability series.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's been a lot of fun and a great pleasure. So, you know, thanks for working with me on it. Yeah.
So at this time, I want to kind of open it up for questions. I can check the chat room, and you can unmute yourself and ask any specific questions you have for your home. I'm happy to answer any questions. And also, you know, when we conclude this, you can always reach me at info@healthbarnusa.com. I'll put that in the chat room. I'll put down my contact information. So, I mean, I'm always happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
What about, yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Okay, so what about, what are your tips on boiling vegetables, and what's the best way to, like, should you steam them with like a little bit of water in the pan with the lid on, or what's the best plan?
Well, with veggies, you know, you don't want to overcook them if you're eating them just plain, but like if you're eating them in something. So for example, I'll give you an example. We make dumplings, which is super a favorite, and we grate it. We grate the zucchini, and then we put it in the mixture and we cook our dumplings. So we didn't cook the zucchini before. But when I steam like if I steam kale, I use those steamer baskets. Have you ever seen those steamer baskets? Mm-hmm. So you can use the bamboo steamer baskets, or you can use the metal ones. So you just put like a coat of water like this much, and then it's literally like 2-3 minutes until even broccoli becomes like bright green, or kale becomes bright green, and then just cut it off. And then this way, I mean, I love my vegetables like that. And this way you don't I mean, you could even drink that water if you wanted. You know, so, but you can definitely, this is an excellent way of just taking the edge off of the bitterness of those greens. And the bit more bitter the greens, the better. It's better for your blood. It's a better detox for the liver. So arugula, kale, collards, these are all excellent for your body, for your immune system.
I have a question. I have a compost bin that I got from the Bergen County Utilities Authority, those big black ones. And I've had it there for about 4 years in the same spot. And I've been pretty successful with it. But then this year, and I think it goes along with what you were saying about the nasty squirrels, you know, in the front, there's like that little vent. Yeah. There's a hole that they chewed through that vent now. And I'm kind of like, do I just abandon this one and start like, because originally when I started, I just had these like Rubbermaid totes. I drilled holes in them and I put that in the ground.
Oh.
And, it was kind of cool until I think what happened was pumpkins started growing out of it, which was kind of neat. But yeah. But at the same time, like I'm kind of like not sure what to do, because also in our yard, and we're actually like a block and a half from HealthBarn. We're right on Monroe. We had bird feeders in our front yard, and in the spring we had rats that were coming to the bottom of our feeder. So we're like, we don't want to keep those around. So we got rid of our bird feeder, you know, and we were told that, you know, it's because the restaurants were closed and they were looking for food. So the rats were coming, you know, they were trying to find
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had 3 of them, and then we got rid of it all, and then they were gone. But we did find a dead one in our front yard like this week. And I'm like, where did that come from? Because we have no food other than I'm hoping it's not the compost, you know, but that's in the backyard. So I guess I don't know, like what
is the compost bin destroyed? Like, are you?
No, it just has a hole in the like you know how the vent is in the front?
Yeah.
Not the part where you pull up, but right above there, there's like a little vent. It's right there. There's like a circular hole that was chewed, and I've seen squirrels around there. So I'm guessing, and I actually saw one trying to get in there, but he was too fat and he couldn't get all the way in there.
Oh my gosh, I know they've been.
So, are you composting anything other than vegetative waste?
No, we have coffee, tea bags, banana peels, you know, that's it. Like, I mean, we've read up on it. We're trying to keep it, and we put, you know, dead leaves in there. And I even have like shredded paper. When we shred papers, I throw that in there on top of it to keep it from, you know, and I have the crank that you turn but I'm like, I'm not sure what to do because I'm afraid that hole's going to get bigger. Or we've had
rats do. We had a rat problem when we had one of those earth mover, whatever they in our backyard, and we were sitting outside one lovely evening with some friends visiting us, and we thought, oh, what are those little beady red eyes and that little chattering sound? And and so we've just gotten the lifted up above ground. We got the compost tumbler, which is metal.
Okay.
That corrodes after a little while, but they're really easy to turn. They're very firm until now we have 3 composters. We have a lot in our backyard because they're on different stages. But the one, you know, I don't know, me to jump in on this, but you might want to get something that's above the ground.
Yeah, it is above the ground.
But you didn't find a rat in the compost.
No, it was in the front yard. All the rats were always in the front of the yard. Okay. And we do have a house that's like across the street, 2 doors down, that I think is abandoned. Like it's like there's like it's wooded in front, and it looks like the garage has like fallen. I mean, it's in Midland Park, you know, but like we were like, should we call the town about that house? Because who knows what's lurking around back there. You know.
But I think for the birds, like what would be cool, instead of bird feed, you know, plant sunflowers or plant. Because what we do at HealthBarn is I don't know if you've seen our garden, but we have these giant sunflowers.
Yes.
And they're so cool. And then you just let them go and they become seed for the birds. So like, there's ways that you can use plants to actually feed the birds and naturally, like through the cycle.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't feed them with bird seed. I would definitely get rid of that because that's a problem even for the squirrels.
Yeah,
that's definitely.
Oh, and the chipmunks, the squirrels, and then we were having groundhogs too in the back.
Yeah.
Like
so the groundhogs but that was with the compost or no?
No, they were running around back there. I don't know what they were doing, and I don't think they were the ones that made the hole because they were huge. They were massive, and there were 2 of them that would always come together.
But I think you can leave the bin. I mean, unless you find something in there that gets stuck. Yeah. I mean, that would be the only thing, but I think you could just leave the bin the way it is. I don't think you have to get another bin.
Okay.
And unless you feel like it's not safe.
I'm kind of like, do I kind of block that a little bit? Because if something chewed through that plastic, what's going to stop them? And if I do find something in there, you're going to hear me at the HealthBarn. You're going to hear me shriek.
Can I just make a suggestion? Is that you should bury the vegetative waste. So put all the leaves on top and the, any cardboard or like cardboard eggshells, any branches and twigs, and just make sure that the vegetative waste is as far down as it can be. And so layer the carbon on top, and that should help. But I think the bins should be enclosed generally. I mean, I don't think that that's causing the rat problem, but I think the bin should be enclosed.
Yeah. Actually, I had a big squirrel problem this summer, and the squirrels all the time digging my recycling bin. I am putting everything inside the recycling, washing at the dishwasher, and put the recycling bin. And I caught them eating my yogurt containers. It's empty, clean, wash at the dishwasher, and they are chewing the yogurt containers. Wow. So I believe they like the plastic taste or something because it's, nothing. But everywhere, one day I found everywhere with the plastic containers, all yogurt containers and the mascarpone containers. It's all clean, but they were chewing and throwing. It's unbelievable, but you know, squirrels are, I believe they're crazy. But they love the plastic. I think maybe it's your problem is that kind of thing.
Sometimes I just want to have a camera with like an infrared camera in my backyard just to see, because I feel like, am I blaming the right animals for eating my plants and vegetables? Make sure I'm not vilifying the wrong ones. But
no, the squirrels were definitely out of control this year.
Yes, it's the, you know, I produced nearly 70 pounds of tomato this year in my backyard.
Wow.
It was, yes, I planted only 12 tomato plants, and the one came from the compost, which is I'm generally using if I buy something, is Trader Joe's organic pearl tomatoes. And I had maybe 10 pounds from there. Only one plant, it came out from the compost, and it's very weird, like ivy kind of thing. It's covered all the floor. It's not, you know, if I have something to climbing, it will climb, but I hadn't. So it's covered all floor. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And it's from the compost, and all squirrels and the chipmunks had a big party with that thing. I left that thing outside, so they enjoyed that compost tomato. So I can save my tomatoes. But I believe I collect 70 pounds, maybe. They ate that much.
Amazing.
Well, that is an astonishing amount. I wish I could get anywhere near that. But
yeah. So and I had you know, maybe 20 pounds green ones after, you know, at the October. And I every time, okay, do you want tomatoes? Do you want tomatoes? All my neighbors
oh my gosh, wow,
hated the tomatoes now because I have all the time. Oh, hi, tomatoes.
Well, but when I'm thinking about growing, Stacey, you mentioned amending the soil. Could you, what did you mean by amending?
Well, I mean, you have to do a soil check. You have to take a soil sample. Usually it's like 3 samples from 3 different places where you're going to grow it. If you're going to grow on the ground, you could also, you know, I like to grow in the ground because I call it the lung. It's like a lung, you know, it's like, if you think about the ground and it's like this, and then you put a above the ground bin on it, and it's popular, like you can actually put the bin up in this way, you don't have to be down in the ground, it helps with your back, but it's just sitting on the ground. But if you open up the ground, it's like it gives it oxygen, like it opens up. Like think about how it would feel if you peel off that grass, and it like creates air flow for the earth. I'm just really into it. I just feel like, and then you're really like, we really changed the earth there. It would have been so much easier for me to put, you know, what do you call it? Raised beds there. Would have been so much easier to just put raised beds and not deal with it. And there's a whole method, like, you know, again, I'm going to teach a series of gardening, but like there's this lasagna method. I don't know if anyone's heard of this, where when you fill the raised bed, you do soil, then you do newspaper, then you do mulch, and then you layer it again. You keep layering. You don't just dump in all the soil. So then that makes for a very fertile environment for worms and for, you know, the kind of ecosystem you're looking for. But you have to, once you determine, Rutgers has an awesome, Rutgers Cooperative, you send them the soil samples of the 3, usually it's 3, and you tell them what you want to do. If you want to grow flowers, plants, you know, vegetables, etc. And they'll do an analysis of the nutrition, the minerals in your soil, and they'll tell you what you need. And so that's what I mean by amending. You have to figure out what it is first. It's the same thing if you took a blood test and you see your magnesium's low, you got to take magnesium pills, right? Or iron. It's the same thing. Your soil has to be evaluated, and then you have to determine what you need to put in there in order for it to, and you know, of course, compost is ideal, but you might need a little bit more depending on when, you know, how it's going. Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I just wanted to ask about frozen berries. So so I don't want to buy the strawberries and blueberries in the container because of the plastic waste. So I had read somewhere that the frozen berries, and actually frozen vegetables as well, have as much, or if not better, nutrients than the fresh vegetables that are not frozen, because they are frozen quickly after being picked. And so they're retaining all their nutrients. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's good. Like peas, for example, I have a bag of frozen peas in my, right now I have a bag of frozen peas. But I think that it's important that, and also I really recommend frozen fruits or vegetables organically. Like if you can't get organic strawberries, you know, in its container, it's usually less expensive to get it frozen. You could get frozen organic strawberries all the time. And I did mention there's a dirty dozen. So if people care, like if you don't want to buy everything organic, there's the Environmental Working Group puts out a list called the Dirty Dozen. And that tells you which has the highest pesticides. And so for those foods, maybe you want, and if you really want them to be organic and they're hard to get, you might want to get them frozen. But again, I really do prefer like fresh for most things. Like frozen peppers aren't great. Although even at HealthBarn, Polly knows this. If we get a big box of peppers, we cut them up, freeze it, but we may use that. We may not make fajitas with that because we might throw that in the chili. So it just because there's nothing better than like even texturally for like the fresh, because once it freezes, it loses something. And there's ways to do it. Like you could take, and I didn't even talk about that. You could take fresh vegetables if they're just about to go and freeze them. So like, and there's ways to do it. You could look it up and say, okay, what's the best way? You could actually freeze it. Like what we do with the fresh peppers is we cut them in strips and put it on platters, freeze, like put them in the, it's a walk-in freezer. You put them in the freezer, freeze it, and then you bag them frozen. And you don't rinse them with water. So there's that could be a whole nother topic. But there is that ability where even if you have carrots and you don't want them to go bad or whatever, you're going away, freeze them, cut them up and freeze them. Just know what you're going to cook them with. Like I said, so if you're doing peppers, and it's not going to really be great for fajitas, but if you're going to throw them in chili or soup or something, then dice them. Just whatever way you're going to use them is the way you should cut them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Stacey. It's 7:30 now, and I know that you have to jump off. So thank you so much, everybody. These are some really great questions too. Thank you very much, Stacey. And I just want to let people know, Stacey, you can go anytime, but thank you so much.